Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on the release of QualiWare version 10.9, which delivers extensive improvements and new features to the tool. My name is Kevin Bowles. I'm the product owner for enterprise architecture at QualiWare. The team here at QualiWare have been diligently working on some exciting new features, and I'm excited for us to have the chance to discuss some of these new features today. I'm happy to introduce our three speakers for the webinar. Firstly, our CEO, Kuno. Secondly, our business architect, Martin. And finally, our solution architect, Russell. Before I hand over to Kuno, I just wanted to mention that questions can be raised using the Q&A or the chat feature in Teams. We'll try our best to answer as many questions today as possible. I know the webinar is scheduled for 45 minutes, but we could possibly stretch that to an hour if necessary. Having said that, I'll hand over to Kuno to kick off the exciting release of QualiWare 10.9. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to show you some of the new features in QualiWare 10.9. We have partitioned the presentation into several sub areas. First, I'll talk a little bit about what has happened with the web modeler and new features in the web modeler. I will continue with some news on the publishing capabilities that we support in the tool. We'll talk a little bit about our extended support for ArchiMate and how we support ArchiMate 3.2, and also how we support the new edgy 2023 enterprise design modeling language from Intersection. After that, I will hand over to Russell to show us the new AI features that we have introduced to support your work with architecture in QualiWare in 10.9. So let's start with the web modeler, and I expect most of you already know what the web modeler is all about. It's been here for a while. As we are moving onto new technology, more and more work will be done in the web modeler, and therefore we're also expanding the features that we support in the web modeler. I will move into a specific process model that you are all familiar with, probably at least. This is the standard Chixi airport process model that we've seen so many times. One of the features in the web modeler that we've introduced is the ability to open multiple diagrams at the same time and to work with multiple diagrams at the same time in the web modeler. So if I go to the file and I say open, I will be able to open different types of diagrams. I can say I want to open an application diagram, maybe a ArchiMate diagram, maybe an edgy diagram, and so on and so forth. I can select those three diagrams, and it will open the diagrams one at a time. And while it's doing that, it will open up different tabs at the bottom of the web modeler. So we have the Chixi rental. That was the first diagram we opened. Then the Chixi beacon is an application landscape. We have the ArchiMate example, and we have the asset map from Edgy. Now you can see I'm presented with a button here called Overview. If I click the Overview, I'll get a list of objects, a list of all the diagrams that I have opened in my session, and I can click to move into one of these diagrams. Another thing that we are supporting now from the web modeler is the ability to look at differences in revisions, so compare different revisions of the same diagram. So now that we're here at the business process network, I can say, please show me and compare with the revision of this diagram, and it will show me all the revisions of this diagram, and I can go back to, let me compare with the first one. It will appear, if I had multiple revisions I would compare to, it would appear as a list of objects out here. Notice that it says diagram is not published. It's not because the diagram is not there. It's just so old that I'm not having that SVG file saved. But if I click, it will know what the diagram looked like, and it will show me the differences between the revision 0 and this revision that we are in right now. And we can see that there is a little legend here to say what do these colors mean. So green shading means that it's been inserted, red shading means that it's been removed, and blue shading means that it's been moved or resized. So if I deselect, moved, and resize, everything that was moved and resized disappears, and this leaves us with what was there from the beginning, of course. And I can say, let's only look at what has been moved. So I have moved them around a little bit since some years ago, which is not surprising. Also notice that the comparison becomes an extra tab here at the bottom. So I can close my comparison and return to my normal viewer in the web modeler. Now, there's another thing that has been introduced in 10.9 for the web modeler, not just the web modeler, but it's certainly very visible here. And that is the ability to look up into the Center of Excellence for help modeling the diagram. So there's a QualiHelper here. Do you need help using QualiWare? If I click this one, it will analyze the context that I'm in. So it will see that I'm in a business process network, and it will also start finding content on our Center of Excellence that is relevant for you as a user if you're sitting there and trying to model your business. Of course, it doesn't know anything about airports, but it does know about how to guide you through modeling a process and showing you some example of how a process network can look. We can also look at the symbols to get explanation on what is actually a business object, and I can see what the business object is here. It also gives me more sort of standard features that I can look for. So if I want an explanation of the tools, if I want some useful shortcuts, if I want to go and look at a video for something, I can go directly to the QualiTube and I can move into, what is it that is new and what is old and how do I work with QualiWare. So to make a long story short, we have a new QualiHelper that will allow you to find data, find content in the Center of Excellence to help you with the context that you're in. Right now, it was in the business process network, but I can also go and look for stuff on the Center of Excellence that will bring me into whatever you need to know more about. So a very nice little feature that has been reasonably well received so far. Let me close down for the web modeler here, and of course we can come back and there may be other questions later. One of the things that you'll see on the dashboard is that we have included some new capabilities to show the properties. For example, here we show the properties of the diagram. If I select one here, it will show the properties of that particular symbol. And notice that we have now a context-sensitive property list. So it basically now knows that it needs to show the properties of a process. And when I click back here, it's the properties of a diagram. So different type of properties depending on what symbol you select. And this has been implemented all around the tool set, as we will see later, also for ArchiMate symbols and Edu symbols. It basically allows you to build a dashboard and to use the dashboard for navigating in an easier way than it did previously, because you can now get all the information that you need. Another thing that we'll see is that the edit tile over here. Now this is a little simple type of diagram because there's only one symbol type. But for diagrams with more symbol types, if you have a specific symbol type on the diagram, it will open up for multiple spreadsheet editing capabilities by looking at what is on the diagram. So it's basically presenting you with the editing capabilities that you need in order to work with the diagram that you're in. Okay. Let's move into, just for fun, let's move into another diagram. Let's go to the application management and look at an application landscape. Now the application landscape, again, it will show you information systems because that's what it is in this diagram. It has other type of properties. So if I click an information system, it will be system short names. If I click my line here, it is a system dependency, and we can see that this drills into a lower level. So the ability to look at the properties and click forward to other objects and other diagrams is supported in this version. Now that we are here, many of you will remember that we can link for the information flows. We can look at the interfaces that it's using, and some of these interfaces may be actually based on OpenAPI standard, and that we have a OpenAPI editor in the tool to allow you to edit the operations and the code that has to do with making integration into this environment. We'll come back a little later to how we have enabled a sort of navigation from logical to physical OpenAPI. So starting from your business information models, so data models and class diagrams, etc., all the way down to OpenAPI. So not only do we support the OpenAPI now, but we also allow you to model that from high logical level all the way through to the physical layer. Okay, now that we're here, let's take a look at how we support ArchiMate now. So here I have a layered viewpoint. Let me take a look at the layered viewpoint, and we can see here an ArchiMate viewpoint. If I expand this to full size, you can see there are some ArchiMate processes, there are application components, and so on and so forth, actors, things like that. And when I click a business process here, you'll see that the properties here inherits the properties from the business process in QualiWare. Application components, they are shown a little differently, and we basically have a much more flexible way of navigating and showing the content of a diagram. Also, you'll see here that, like I said before, the tool now recognizes that there are business processes, application components, etc. In this diagram, and therefore provides you with more information editing capabilities. So if you want to edit your application components base properties, there is a spreadsheet that will allow you to do just that. Here are the application components that we saw on the layered view. We can edit the system type, the short names, etc. This is nothing new. This has been there for a while. The new thing is that it's now finding out what are the requirements for editing and presenting exactly the subset that would be interesting to edit. Another thing that we've introduced is highlighting. Well, you can say we've been highlighting things before. Yeah, but in this version, not just are you able to say, so what symbols have risk, and you'll find out what symbol has a risk, but you're also able to highlight multiple sort of values in the same highlight. So, for example, we have a system highlight lifecycle state. It will find the application components and it will highlight the state of the application component while also just introducing the legend here. So we have some application components in the implementation phase, some are frozen, some are phasing out, etc. So we have expanded the highlighting capabilities of the tool set in 10.9. Okay. As we talked about before, you're free to pose questions, and Kevin, you can just let me know if there are any questions so far.
Kuno, sorry, there is one question
okay.
from Scott. Do we need to be signed into the COE to use the QualiHelp?
Do we need to be signed into the COE to use QualiHelp? That is a very good question. The answer is no. as long as you stay in the area that you land on from the helper. So when you saw me looking up in the COE on the symbols and the diagram and the videos, it was different sort of queries or links directly into the Center of Excellence. If you want to work your way around from there, you know, move forward now that you're in the Center of Excellence, click other links and move forward there, then you would need to sign in and first of all register, of course, but since it's free, it shouldn't be a big problem to do a registration. The only thing that will happen is that you'll get a newsletter now and then from QualiWare, so it's not a terrible thing. But if you want to work your way around the Center of Excellence, which I suggest that you would do actually as a user of the tool, then you would need to sign in. So the first page you land on, that's free if you wish. They're all free, but it's certainly something you don't need to sign in because you already signed into the QualiWare toolset, so we know that you have a license. So so I hope that answers that question. What I wanted to do now that we are already here in the ArchiMate area, I want to announce that we are now supporting ArchiMate 3.2 and that we have in fact established specific dashboards for all ArchiMate viewpoints that is mentioned in the standard. We also have established similar dashboards for the ArchiMate's viewpoints that are not in the standard, so what we call legacy viewpoints. And the reason we do that is not because we like them better than the new release. It's just because we have customers with content, especially one client with a lot of content in legacy viewpoints, which is actually us, QualiWare, because we've been using ArchiMate for a while. So we have still support for the legacy viewpoint in ArchiMate. Another thing that we've done is introduce the ArchiMate viewpoints in our main menu. So if we go into the main menu, we can see that there are certain ArchiMate viewpoints that belong to the strategy. So ArchiMate motivation viewpoint, stakeholder viewpoint, goal realization, etc., strategic viewpoint, and implementation and migration viewpoint. If we go to process, ArchiMate process viewpoints, we have the business process network viewpoint is the QualiWare defined viewpoint. So it's not really an ArchiMate defined or recommended viewpoint. It's the viewpoint that we have introduced for building ArchiMate processes with the Plus license. The architect license, of course, allows you to build any type of ArchiMate model, but the Plus license is only for process modeling, and we have defined a viewpoint for ArchiMate that allows you to build ArchiMate process models with the QualiWare Plus license. I don't know if you knew about that, but that's certainly an option now. Go to application, we can find the application viewpoints. So the layered viewpoint we saw before, the application structure viewpoint, implementation and deployment. And of course, if we go layered viewpoints, I get a list of all the layered viewpoints in the tool, and I can work with it from here. This is a very simple one. So that is the support for the ArchiMate. The ArchiMate viewpoints. Another thing that we have done in the 10.9 release is to allow the editing of all objects from the web. So all the dialogues that sits behind the diagrams have been opened up. And there's one thing, just want to show you one dialogue here, just for the information system. Of course, you get now all the different components or all the different tabs that you also see in the QLM tool. But on top of this, we have included a name field here, which allows you to very easily rename objects from the dialog. This is something that we have not supported before. You had to go into the repository explorer to do that, and that's of course also okay. But from now on, for all objects, you're able to rename the object as a property in the dialog. Okay, now that we are here anyway talking about the Repository Explorer, we also had some changes to the Repository Explorer. Let me show you how that looks now. So in the Repository Explorer, we have a scope now. We still can search for certain fields. If I go to my, let's see here, my process change, for example, right now in this version, of course, we can fold out the objects in the tree view, which is something that we've been able to a little while here. But what is also important is that when I select an object, for example, to my Jitsi passenger car handling, I'll select the backdrop. Over here now, I get the property view of basically everything that is known for the backdrop. So you can see, just like we saw it on the dashboards, we have expanded the ability to see the information of the object that you select. And this is actually quite nice. Also, another thing that we've introduced is the back relationship. So if I click the Jitsi Airport app, I get the information and I get the back relationships delivered. So that is a nice new feature in the Repository Explorer. It looks more and more like what you would see in QLM. It's just nicer to look at. Okay, Kevin, any questions so far?
No more questions so far.
Great. We'll just continue. What I'll do now is I'll take you into the Jitsi, no, sorry, to the Edgy part of the tool. And for those of you who've seen some of this before, you'll notice that I need to change my role. And if I change my role to Enterprise Design, it tells me to find another job. And why does it do that? Yeah, sometimes it's teasing me a little bit there. Anyway, we can see that there's an Edgy overview. The desktop tab is still the same thing. Let's take a look at this Edgy overview. For those of you who don't know Edgy, it's a design modeling language for enterprise design. So if you want to build a purposeful business, then Edgy is a good way to start doing that. And for those of you who are in enterprise architecture, you'll probably say, hey, do we need another modeling language to design our businesses? We've seen some business designs over the years. And I would say, yeah, you're right about that. And if you can live with that, your strategy meta model is created by object management group, then maybe you're well off. But if you feel that your strategy layer and your high level communication with your top management is lagging a little bit, maybe Edgy is the right way to continue, because this modeling language is very simple and it can be understood by a lot of people who are not normally concerned with Open API and JavaScript and these type of things. So this is why Edgy is so important. There are certain areas, they call it facets. There's an identity facet. There is an architecture facet and an experience facet. And remember, we are at the business level. It's where we talk about user experience and brand value and things like that. This is real business language. And for each of these facets, we have identified or created a desktop. So there's an identity desktop, there's an architecture desktop, and an experience desktop. The architecture desktop will include everything in the architecture, plus what sits in the intersection. So if I go to architecture here, I'll find the process maps, the asset maps, the capability maps, but also the product map and the organization map that is part of the intersection between those two facets. Now, if I click a process map here, I can create a new one. I can get a list of the existing process maps. If I click process map, you'll notice that we have also here applied the same functionality the dashboard, as we have done with ArchiMate and with the standard toolset. So here is my property for the diagram. If I select an object, it changes my property views. My editing capabilities are reflecting the content of the diagram, and so on and so forth. So for Edgy, we've implemented the support that is required for a design language. But we are using, of course, the integration with the architecture tool. So if I go to the process properties and I look at the different properties that I can edit for a process in Edgy, well, of course, there's a short description, and we all know that this is standard functionality. If there's cost here, I can click, this little drop down, and I can say, oh, here's it's high cost. Now these properties are properties of the Edgy meta model. So compared to, for example, ArchiMate, where there are no properties sort of in the standard, and we have then inherited the QualiWare properties from similar templates into ArchiMate. In Edgy, there are actually some of what they call labels and metrics that we can include, and there are some relationships. Process requires asset. Well, it's not a big surprise when I click this link. It will look up in the assets that are in the asset model or asset map. It allows me therefore to populate the objects just like you would do in any other meta model based standard. You can also link to other things in the breaks down to field here. We can see Jitsi Beacon, investment portfolio, wayfinding, and some other type of diagrams. And these are actually standard architecture models that we have in the tool. So so if we go back here and we say, okay, I would like to see a model gallery for the Edgy process model here. And of course, they will go and find an expansion feature. Let's say process breaks down to, and you lean back and you let the tool do its work in finding what are the breaks down to paths from the Edgy. You can see here's an investment portfolio planning model. For those of you who are familiar with the Chris Potts methodology, that's what he's supporting. Here's an ArchiMate model. Here's actually the layered viewpoint that we looked at before, and of course also you can have the open the BPMN model that can be linked, and of course I hope you're aware that you can actually also, of course you can see that these are in different layers, but you can also, if you have this gallery, you can also actually work more with it. So I can zoom into this particular diagram here and say, okay, zoom into my process model, and then I can say, okay, this end event here, where does it actually continue? And then I can open that up as well. Let's just see it all in a view. So here now I have my other process model, and move them around, of course, to say, yeah, this end event triggers this next process, and they're in the same level, you see. So what we're doing here is building a gallery of relevant models that you can hang it on the wall if you want, but also it gives you an ecosystem for the work that you have right in front of you, and you can see everything that is relevant for that particular ecosystem. Let's go to another Edgy model. Let's take a look at the asset models. So assets, what could that be? That can be a lot of stuff. It can be information system, it can be machines, it can be anything. And when you look at the asset, of course, that's a pretty simple type of diagram. Now, all the Edgy maps, just like we've done with the ArchiMate viewpoints, if you open them up for editing on all these maps, you're able to expand the graph syntax. So initially, you don't see all the models, all the symbol types, but if you go and expand to the full extent of the language, then you'll be able to see all the different type of symbols. So even if intersection group recommends that you have these type of one object type models, it allows you to build more type of advanced models with other type of symbols in it as well. Now, if I come back here to my dashboard from before, to see what type of asset we are talking about here, the intersection group has created some of these fields or labels, as they call them, and one of the fields defines the asset type. So if I say I want to see the asset type, I can highlight. I can get, the different type of assets that I have in my diagram: material, machine, document, application, data, and system software. You can imagine how many different type of assets a big company would have, but we're still at a high level modeling language, so we don't have necessarily an information system or an application component in here, but we have an asset that could be an information system. I could also say, what's the availability of this? And it would be a different sort of set of data that you could work with. Asset expiry, when does it expire? And so the edgy landscape is pretty much the same thing. It's a little easier to use symbolics, nice colors, and it's something that can be interesting for you to analyze for
working
with client areas.
Kuno, sorry to interrupt you. Just a quick question, well, two questions. Jean-Marie had a question when you were focusing on the clustering or the diagram gallery. When you look at a scope of diagrams like that, he wanted to know, is it easy to turn that scope or set into a project? So create a logical grouping. I suppose you could do it potentially with a hashtag, but I was just wondering your thoughts on that question.
Yeah, so when we do the clustering analysis, that typically would be for organizing projects. It would be something you would do out of a capability model typically. Then the clustering not just suggests a grouping, but it also allows you to tag with project names, for example, those groupings that you've defined. The gallery as such do not really analyze interrelationships between the objects, whereas the clustering really measures the distance between two objects to decide whether they're in the same cluster or in two different clusters. The gallery more opens up for the relationships and visualize the end type. So there's no clustering as such that you could press in the gallery, but all the other visualization capabilities in the tool, you can press the clustering button and get a grouping of things that belong to each other in that. So for example, if we should look at some of the visualizations, because something has changed there as well. If we look at the diagram domain, which is a sort of very broad analysis, everything that contains everything that is linked by everything that is linked to anything. So this is a relatively big cluster, a big visualization. And of course, if I want to know exactly, so this particular process here, what is it all about? It will highlight those and dim the rest, right? So we've seen that before. What we have support for now is the ability to filter this. So if I say, well, hang on, I don't want to see the capabilities now, it will change the visualization. I don't want to see the regulations and the goals either, and the external documents could go away. So we basically are able to filter. I can search for stuff in here. There are more capabilities to get me content out of the visualization, because mind you that this visualization is not something that somebody drew a diagram for. This is content that has been created by many different people at different points in time. So if we want to sort of comprehend a whole scope of knowledge, the visualization capabilities are quite advanced and quite important. But we don't want it to become white noise with too many objects in there. So we want to be able to say, okay, take some of this away, the products we don't. There's one product, just take it away, not important. So the visualization capabilities have been increased quite dramatically in the 10.9 release. And what was the other question, Kevin? I forgot about
the
that.
other question is, when will 10.9 be officially released? I was going to answer that myself, but I thought it's best to hand that one to you.
Chicken. Well, that's fine. I can say Monday. Monday is a good day, and there are so many Mondays that I cannot be wrong on that. But we actually expect it to be released on this coming Monday because it's frozen. We are happy with it, and we released it internally already. So we just need to check that we have all the documentation available on the Center of Excellence before it's released. So yeah, Monday would be a good plan. I just have one more thing before I hand it over to Russell and the AI service. I know you all came to see Russell, so when I hand it over to him, I'm not coming back. Well, I may be actually coming back. Anyway, let me just show you something here on the Open API. We talked about that just briefly. I just want to show you something that. Let's see here, display task, duplicate. Here, now you see this diagram we saw before. It was under that single application dependency, and I clicked the information flow to find the interface that's sat behind it, the Open API interface. What we've done now is go from there. Of course, we have this Open API structure that we introduced last year, and it allows you to import APIs and also to generate APIs from the structure. What we've done now is to link this to the logical layer through what we call the platform independent layer. So from the Open API, we move into what we call an ontology. It is to create a layer of documentation that is platform independent. So of course the API is platform dependent since it sits as part of an application. But sharing knowledge across applications is just as important to consider as sharing knowledge across people. And we need to document what knowledge are we sharing between two different type of applications. And therefore we've decided to let the ontology, which is a platform independent diagram type, to be intermediate for this purpose. Now, of course, you can say ontologies are also used for semantic modeling, very high level, where we talk concept term type of thing. So it's not replacing anything here. It's just that normally people would have their logical business models in class diagrams or data model diagrams. So therefore, we can also go back and forth between the logical models, the class diagrams, the data model diagrams. We can generate an ontology from a subset of the class and data models to represent a platform independent layer of an integration. And then we can press a button, create the Open API structure, and then create the files that you require to build the integration landscape. So we build a traceability from your high-level information model all the way down to how your applications are integrated physically. And this is something that a lot of people are depending on, and a lot of customers are still not even close to establishing a documentation of. So we thought that would be a very good little feature to introduce in this 10.9. And with this, Russell,
yes,
take it away.
I will. So let me share my screen really quick. Here we go. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Awesome. Okay. So we at QualiWare have been working on some AI implementations into the product. And we have created something that will generate diagrams in collaboration with you. So I'll open this right here and I'll go one level down and I'll take this business process, for example. Let's say I want to create a workflow diagram from this process. I want to create a breaks down too. So I'll open this diagram in the web modeler and I'll select the process I wish. Here I choose book car. Here you can see the description of this process and the name. This is some of the things that the AI will take, but I'll talk more about it later. What data it actually takes from the business process and your repository. But right at the top right, you'll see here is a new button where it says QualiAI. And when I have this process selected and I press the button, a new screen will show up, which is the AI query window. At the very top here, you can see it says generate workflow diagram. This is the name of the knowledge scope. I will come back to knowledge scopes, but these are made for designing what type of diagram and how you create these diagrams with the AI. Next box is context. This is just simply a list of objects of which my context comes from. And right now it's just the business process book car. Here I have a big field where I can add a bunch more stuff. I can really, it doesn't need any more at this point because it already has the context of the book car and it knows it's supposed to create a workflow diagram. But I can give it extra instructions here. I can put some extra rules in there, or I could tell you maybe have the start event be called start and the end event be called end, anything like that. It can be a lot of different things, but I don't need it. So I'm just going to press generate diagram. Right now, it's getting all the content from the object book car, and it's trying to generate a new workflow diagram with this. So right here, we see a simple diagram, and it's created 2 roles. It's created some activities, a workflow condition. And let's say, for example, that it created a mistake or it does something wrong. Then it's very easy to generate a new one. I can just close it down here, or I can just go back, press it again, and it's right there. If you have written something in the input field and you close it, or you have generated something and you open it again, it will still be there. So you won't have to put this huge text in every time, so it won't be removed. But yes, so all objects will come with descriptions. You can ask for longer descriptions, or the content you give it. If it has very described content, then it will probably also have longer descriptions as well. But it'll create very simple and efficient diagrams. I mean, it's not really supposed to be the final answer to this. It's supposed to be a better start, a better first look at how your workflow diagram could look. And then you together with the AI could collaborate to making more efficient and better content. That's at least what we hope here at QualiWare. And let's take a quick look at the knowledge scope. Let's just do this. So right here, I open the repository explorer, I put in knowledge scope, and I find this one, which is the one we used. When I press edit, I can go in and look at the properties here. So of course we have the name, as I said, and right here we have a business definition. And this is the definition of your company. It could be whatever company. We have our Chixie company, the airport. Just if it ever needs the context of what your company does and its definition, then you can put it in here. We have examples. Examples can be used in many ways, and actually as you choose. You can describe how you want the examples to be used, but it's in this description, or in this case, it is you could put in a workflow diagram that you said, I like the layout here, or I like the way that it's named, and I want mine to be similar. Or you could have a draft of what you tried to do, and you want to see how the AI does it. So you put yours as an example, but it's very use case based. You can just try it out. And here is the context. And this, you select what type of context. We have these 4. We're selected on current selected objects. So that's why I had to select the object that I was in. If we wanted to use the diagram we were in, I would just do this and I wouldn't have to select anything because it would just use the context of the diagram as the context. The last 2 are, if you open here and you open this, there is a button. Whoops. There's a button to the bottom right that says link context. This opens a list, if I'm in the link context in the knowledge scopes, of all your of all your templates. In this case, it would be all the business processes, because this is what I wrote here. And you can choose from them. Right here, we have an ontology. This is quite an important part of the knowledge scope. This ontology, which I have opened right here, shows and actually decides and rules over what data the AI takes. So right here in the middle, we have the root. And the root is the selected object, the business process. And here we can, through the ontology, tell it what data it takes. So for example, we say name, which is text. We have short description, purpose. It can also be linked objects. So in this case, we have person. And we say
position.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. In this case, we have position, and especially not person, because let's say we don't want the AI to have actual names, but we want the AI to have position names. So we put in position and name. So it will only take the name of the owner or responsible if it's actually a position and not a person. So that could be one of the safeguards you can put up. And it will also take has input, has output, has start event, all these things listed here. And you can change these, you can create your own. It's very quite intuitive, and we've created this for you. So this will work for the generate workflow diagram use case, but you can always edit it however you like. And here, of course, we say what the root object of the ontology is. Here, in the prompting, we've added some text, and this text goes into the AI and kind of tells you how and what kind of diagrams do we want. And this is in this box at the top here. For example, I wrote an attribute can either be yes, no, A, B, C as per the decision of the conditions. This is just to simplify it for the AI. Sometimes it will know this stuff, sometimes it won't. So it'll be about finding out how to do this and how to explain it to it well. But we've created these two knowledge scopes for you guys to use. A workflow diagram one and a business process diagram one. Here we have knowledge prompts. And in the knowledge prompt, we have a knowledge prompt called rules. And this is basically just some text. I'll open it here so you can see. I use it for very modular prompts that I maybe want to reuse in a bunch of knowledge prompts. So for example, if you wanted to be more modular, you would take the naming convention and you would just have a prompt called naming convention. And I would like to use that on all my knowledge scopes. So I would just simply add that knowledge prompt to all of my knowledge scopes. Yes. And of course, we have temperature. This describes how random, predictable the AI will be. If it's low, it'll use the same ones. It'll generate the same diagrams every time. If it's high, it'll create something more erratic and random. But yeah, this is just about it for the knowledge scopes. It's just about editing and creating and deciding how you create these diagrams. Yeah.
Just a quick question there from one of the attendees. At the moment, you've mentioned that this is available for specific template types or model types.
Yeah.
Are we planning to extend that, for example, to ArchiMate diagrams, etc.? Maybe we could just discuss that briefly.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we start with these two diagrams, but we're going to start creating more, and we're going to be uploading them for you to download. But it's also available for anyone to create their own. This AI should work for every diagram as long as it has its knowledge scope that comes with it. And you guys can create these knowledge scopes. You can look at the examples we've provided and try to create something similar just for another diagram like ArchiMate diagrams. So it should be available for all the diagrams, yeah. But we'll help creating more and more of these as we go along.
And then another question with regard, I know we've had this question at a previous webinar as well, is could we generate diagrams based on pictures? That is, of course, existing functionality. So we have had that for quite a few years, actually. And I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you wouldn't necessarily use this exact feature for that purpose.
I mean, yeah, we've had this feature before, but it could also be implemented into the QualiAI like this, because right now it's just text and the objects are broken down into text as well. But the model we use does have the functionality. So it's just about implementing it. And it's something that we're going to be looking at more input types. It could be documents as well, Excel or Word. So this is definitely something we're looking into.
Yeah, if I think about the practical kind of usage of that, if you're sitting in a workshop and you've done a brown paper exercise or something, and that was always why we had those features initially as well. So it is interesting, but I think it's also worth mentioning that's where we appreciate feedback from our users to say, are these the kinds of things that you are looking for? When we've spoken about generating diagrams, what are your priorities? ArchiMate has been mentioned, I think, a few times, and just to appeal to everyone that if you let us know, we can help to prioritize those things as well to deliver those features to you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
I know we're a bit over, but Kuno, please go ahead.
I just have a little bit more to talk about before we let you go, guys. So one of the things that I wanted to get your attention to would be the fact that we have a release note that is that is available on the Center of Excellence. But there's also another thing that I just want to mention here, which is a relationship that we've had for many, many years, a relationship with an organization that sits in Canada, Process Renewal Group, and they have a framework that has been introduced together with Roger Bolton's latest book, and we've implemented support for Process Renewal Group methodology a while ago. So IGOs and health checks and things like that has been in the tool set for a while. We know some of you guys are using it because we've had requests for changes to the IGO symbol, and that's great. What we're doing now together with PRG is to implement more support for the entire framework, and we are hoping to release continuously new functionality and new linkages between the QualiWare toolset and the Process Renewal Group content in their website. So it's a very good working relationship we have with Roger, Sasha, and the team, and it's something that you'll be able to benefit from going into the future. And then at last, of course, my last comment here would be, where do you find more information about the Center of Release 10.9? And that's something that you can find in the release notes as soon as they're published to the Center of Excellence. But what we've talked about today is something that you can look at. It will be documented, or it is documented here. Modeler enabled diagram, pasting symbols into the web modeler, the compare that we talked about and how that's done, a new type of table to model, the QualiHelper, and so on and so forth. So take a look at the Center of Excellence and see if there are any nice little features that you want to know more about. And if you have any questions, please let us know, like Kevin said. Kevin, over to you.
Perfect. There were some other questions in the Q&A which I've just answered in terms of the technology that is required behind the scenes, of course, to get the AI to work properly. That's something we've discussed internally, and we will provide guidance in that regard, as Kuno mentioned, with the Center of Excellence, but also through the detailed release notes for version 10.9. And then another question specifically related to that documentation. I think, Kuno, you've already covered that as well, that there are, of course, going to be release notes. I think that if we look at version 10.8, which was, in my opinion, one of our most successful releases in terms of detailed documentation being available for that release, we're, of course, aiming for the same success with 10.9 as well. So thank you so much, everybody. as Kuno said as well, if there's any additional questions, please do feel free to send those through to us. Yes, I think there is going to be a recording that's made available just to answer one of the questions as well that you should be able to share. And we usually do publish these webinars online as well, either on Vimeo or YouTube or on LinkedIn. So we'll just keep an eye out for that as well. But yeah, I think with that, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. And thank you, Kuno and Russell, for presenting and showing us some of these exciting features. And thank you so much.
Great, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.